You're listening to Beauty and Beyond Playbook. I'm your host, Mitsy Hernandez. Before we jump into the show, I want to announce that the trust journey is officially done and open for anyone that wants to join. This is a subscription that you can pay monthly or you can pay annually, and it will give you access to a lot of videos. I think there are 40 videos so far where I am teaching you exactly the skills that you need to get radical self-trust and exactly the skills that you need so that you get your clients to trust you inside of your beauty business. There are workbooks. There's 2 workbooks in there, and there are going to be 2 coaching calls every single week starting January 14th. We're going to have coaching calls on Tuesdays and on Saturdays every single week, unless stated otherwise. It is now open. I'm so excited. I have had people in my DMs ready to join. If the trust journey sounds like something that you really want to invest in, I highly suggest that you join. It is very economical. Like I stated, it was very important for me to make this readily available and affordable for anyone that wanted to change their life, that wanted to go on this path of radically trusting themselves and growing their beauty business through trust. You can find the link in the show notes. Now, back to the show. Welcome back to my podcast. If this is your first time listening, welcome to Beauty and Beyond Playbook. We talk all things trust, how to raise your self-trust, and how to get clients to trust you so that you have a successful beauty business for years to come. Today we are talking about self-trust hacks that you can use right now to make better decisions in business and in life. What does radical self-trust look like, right? You hear me talk about this a lot. You hear me basically champion radical self-trust at all times. And you're probably thinking, well, what the fuck does that look like? Side note, I am recording on my phone as I wax my lip because I want to be very consistent. I am recording every single chance that I get instead of waiting for the perfect time to record. So you're probably going to hear some noise in the background. I'm sorry. I'll try my best to limit that so that it's not distracting, but I think it's more important for me to be consistent and put all these things out so that you can grow your beauty business and grow your radical self-trust and not look for perfection. That's also a skill that you will learn with radical self-trust. We want progress, not perfection. Okay, so back to the topic at hand. What is radical self-trust? So radical self-trust, the reason I say radical is because you put self-trust above everything else. Now, I have a lot of mentees that join my programs and they are religious. Okay. Every person that I know that believes in a certain religion like Christianity, Muslim, Jehovah's Witness, for some reason, they have an issue with being called religious. I don't know why. I don't know what that's about. But when I say that people are religious, I mean that they worship a God that is taught via a traditional avenue of a religion, such as Christianity, like Jesus, or, being Muslim or being a Jehovah's Witness or whatever it is religion that you subscribe to. So what I run across is mentees that outsource their trust to not only just outside factors, but to their God. And I'm going to tiptoe around this because I want it to make sense without turning off people that are in a religion. I've stated many, many times that I myself am not religious. I grew up Catholic and I left the religion when I was about 16, 17. The definition of radical is relating to or affecting the fundamental nature of something based on thorough or complete change. So when I say radical, that means that you are fundamentally trusting yourself. So at the root in your stomach, wherever it is that you feel the most rooted, you are trusting yourself. And where I was going about the whole religion thing is sometimes people are like, well, I don't trust myself. I trust my God, right? that is fine. That is okay. But that is you trusting yourself. I want you to see that by you choosing to believe and give your power or give your trust over to something outside of you, that is you using radical self-trust, because you are trusting that you are believing in the religion or the God or whatever that serves you best. So when I talk about radical self-trust, understand that I am also talking about you trusting your God. I'm never going to tell you if everything inside of you says, I am powerless, I need to give this over to my God. That is you trusting yourself. Does that make sense? You are telling yourself, I cannot handle this. I'm going to give this over to my God. That is still radical self-trust. Okay? All right. So let's go forward. Radical self-trust is when that is fundamentally what you do. All decisions you make come from that, because no one can tell you, right? No one can tell you how to live your life. I say this all the time, including myself. That's why I tell everyone I am not a guru. I am not your guru. I am my guru. I make decisions that are the best for me. And I hope and pray that when I share my life and my journey, that it helps you with your decisions, with your life, with your journey. But everything that I do will not align with what you want to do. Why? Because that's what your radical self-trust is there for. That's why I speak now in broad terms instead of just very specific terms, because what works for me may not work for you, because we're walking two different paths, and that is okay. So at the root, I want you to understand that first and foremost, everybody is walking a different path, and what looks like it might make sense for me may not make sense for you, but you won't know if it makes sense for you until you practice small little acts of self-trust every day and grow your self-trust to be big. Now, if you believe in a God much bigger than you, and it's not necessarily you who's making the decisions or you who is making the design of your life, but your God, then you need small little increments of trust back with your God, right? That is, like I stated, a lot of my mentees are religious. However, when I ask, well, how do you and your God congregate together day to day? They're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, do you pray? Do you journal? Do you talk to them? Do you like read your Bible? And they're like, no. If you're going to give your power over to a God, then get to know that God. Get to know who it is that you're doing that with, because that's going to build your radical self-trust. You're going to trust, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to give it over to another power. Me personally, I believe that I have everything I need inside of me to make the decisions and to make the life that I want. Okay? So now that we've established what radical self-trust is, let's get into the hacks. First and foremost, you want to limit your information overload. So avoid when it is time for you to make a decision, whether it's in your life or in business, avoid doing too much. Avoid excessive research or talking to too many people and getting a lot of opinions. So I know a lot of people that are like, no, I have to do my research because I want to make educated decisions. There is no such thing as an educated decision that is not grounded in radical self-trust. You can look at, like I stated earlier, you can look at all the data. You can look at what worked for one girl. That doesn't mean it's going to work for you. That doesn't mean it's best for you. That's where your radical self-trust is going to come in. Obviously, if you want to make an educated decision, educate yourself to the best possibility that you feel comfortable. Talk to people. Do what you need to do, whatever it is that you think you need, the amount of information you think you need. But you have to dictate what is the limit in that information. Am I using a lot of information because I don't trust myself, which tends to be the case? Or am I using a lot of information because I genuinely need this information to then make a trusting decision? That is, again, for you to decide. For me personally, I do not talk about my personal issues with anyone except me, myself, and I. I may in passing tell someone what I have going on, and I'm open to their biased and their criticism and their opinions, but very rarely will I share or call someone and say, I need help. I need to know what to do. Very rarely will I do that because, like I stated, I truly, truly believe that no one knows what my path is except me, because I'm the one who's going to have to live it. So someone can tell you what to do and they don't have to suffer the consequences of what they just told you what to do, right? So I am very trusting of myself,
and I figure out all decisions by myself. If I want to go out, if I want to be friends with a certain kind of person, if I don't like the way someone is treating me, if I want to date a man, I keep it all to myself. Because in the past, I've talked about this in my podcast, in the past, I would talk about my dating with a lot of my clients simply because they would kind of push and push and push until I tell them. And then I would get very fucking confused. And even though I knew in my heart I didn't want to date this person, or I knew in my heart that I wanted to leave this relationship, my clients would push me to stay. And again, this is not their fault. This is mine for not using my radical self-trust. And before you knew it, I was miserable. So I've learned from all the years of being alive not to ask anyone for advice. It's very rare that I ever ask anyone for advice. I am always just talking to myself, and I limit the amount of information that I need to take in. And I just very much keep a lot of the stuff very close to my heart, because people don't need to know. Only I need to know, right? So make sure that you do that. And like I stated, set a limit. Set a limit. How much do you need to know? And one thing that I always like to say to all of my clients and to everyone is, the mind can only make a new house out of old bricks. So a lot of the times when you are debating and thinking, what should I do? What should I do? You are using past experiences to make new decisions, right? And the mind can only make decisions from the past, meaning your brain, the way that it works is it takes every single experience you've ever had and it tries to tell the future, I guess you could call it that, and make quote unquote informed decisions from that, but it's only taken the past. So you know how people say be delusional? You have to be delusional to walk a new path, because your brain naturally is going to want to go back to the past and do what it knows the past to be. Does that make sense, or do I need to go deeper into that? You want to make sure that when you are gathering all this information and doing all this stuff, that it truly makes sense and that you are open to a new ending. You are never, ever going to guess. Unless you have some kind of special power where you are a medium or you are a clairvoyant or something. And even then, I've worked with clairvoyants, I've paid clairvoyants. They will tell you, I can only see like one reality. That doesn't mean that is the reality that you're going to experience. So unless you know something I don't know, you will walk in uncertainty when you use radical self-trust. Now, like I stated, I'm waxing my lips, so you're probably hearing me move about a lot. And this is really painful, actually. I have a lot of hair. So you will always walk in uncertainty. That is part of radical self-trust. You are uncertain about the circumstances and the outside world. You never know what's going to happen on the outside world. But radical, like I said, that is the foundation to you. You trust that you know what to do. You trust that whatever situation comes your way, you're going to always make the best decision for yourself. And you trust that you're going to overcome anything that gets thrown your way. That is essentially the full breakdown of what radical self-trust is. So when you are using radical self-trust, I want you to not use radical self-trust from the lens of, okay, I'm going to trust myself because I know that this is going to be favorable outcome. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm going to trust myself to go out into the unknown when I make decisions and hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, because I know whatever happens, I have my back. And if the best happens, yay, that's great. Okay. Now, the chances of the best happening are going to be much higher when you use radical self-trust than the worst. Trust and believe. You tend to stray from your path the most when you're not listening to yourself. If you see that something goes completely wrong, it's probably because you actually didn't listen to yourself. It's very rare that you will make horrible decisions when you're trusting yourself. I'm telling you, it's very rare. They may not come out perfect the way you envision it would come out, but it's not going to be a complete fucking disaster. Because if you were constantly making decisions from complete disaster, why the fuck would anyone use radical self-trust, right? Like, that doesn't even make logical sense. Okay, so that is tip number 1, or hack number 1. Okay, number 2. Embrace your intuition. We are magical beings as women. We bring life into this world. Whether you're a mother or not, you have the ability to bring life into this world. Point blank period. No other being, or at least men, no other human can do that, right? If you have a womb, you have the ability, or at least the possibility, to bring life into this world. That immediately connects you to your God, to the universe, to science. I don't know, whatever it is that you believe in, it immediately gives you a direct line to something greater than us. We literally create something out of nothing, right? That alone tells you how magical we are. Believe your intuition. Your intuition knows. You know when something is wrong. You know when something is right. You know. How many times have you just known in your body, wherever you may feel it? I feel it in like the pit of my stomach. I feel it in the pit of my chest. Wherever you may feel it in your body, you know it. Get used to that feeling. Get used to feeling those nudges. You're constantly getting it. You know something that other people don't know. And this is why I also don't ask advice from other people, because how could anyone know those nudges? They only know the nudges for themselves. Okay. So make sure that you trust those feelings, get used to it, start using it in like small little ways, right? I use it when it comes to going to a restaurant and I don't know what to order. I tend to just let my intuition pick. It has very rarely been wrong. If I don't know what drink to pick, if I don't know if I should even go out, I let my intuition let me know. And like I stated, very rarely is it ever wrong. And it has cultivated my radical self-trust even more because I just know that I know what's best for me. No one can tell me otherwise, right? Okay. Another one, reflect on your successes. It is so easy as people that tend to deal with perfectionism, that tend to have a lot of fear, especially if you have a lot of trauma. It is so easy for you to look at your failures and replay them over and over in your head. But what about your successes, right? You've been successful. You've used radical self-trust before. It's like you've never not done it. We all have that ability. We all have that gift, especially as women. So make sure that you really dig back into your life. I would even keep like a little notebook if that's what's going to help you, called like my successes, and every little success that you have. And when I say little, I don't mean to downplay your success. I say little because in our mind, when little things go right, we tend to be like, oh, but that was just so little. That one doesn't count. No, that one counts. All of them count. All of them count so much. So make sure that you keep a notebook full of successes. If you used your self-trust to order and the dinner that you ordered was fucking delicious, write that down. What is that? I wish I had that sponge bound. Write that down. Yes, write that down because that means that it's working. That means that you are creating a path for yourself that only you know is best and that is actually paying off in the way that you want it to pay off. Make sure that you do that. Seek feedback, but maintain ownership. Okay. I just finished saying that I don't ask anyone for advice, right? However, I do have a business coach because my coach has been places I haven't been. So I don't necessarily ask her for advice. I ask her questions about her own business and the way that she utilizes her own, I don't call it self-trust because that's not necessarily what she teaches, but let's just say her own self-trust to make decisions. But I don't ask her, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? I don't ask that because only I can know that, right? So make sure that you have someone like that. That is why I created the trust journey, to make sure that I am there to help you lean into your nudges. I'm not necessarily going to tell you what to do. Obviously, when it comes to the business part, I will have opinions. But when it comes to your own life, when it comes to, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I quit lashes? Should I not quit lashes? Only you will know that, right? Only you can know what's best for you. I can only see what I see, but I can always help you to really lean into those nudges. So you want to have a system that helps you lean into those nudges, a support system. Make sure that you have people that use radical self-trust. Make sure that you use people that always walk radically their own path and are not constantly questioning themselves. If you have a friend that is constantly questioning herself, I'm not saying she's not worthy of your friendship. What I'm saying is probably don't go to her because she already questions herself. How sure can she be for you? And one thing about friends and people that love us is they know how to fix all our fucking problems. They know exactly how all of our problems are going to be fixed. But then you look at their life and obviously their life cannot be fixed. So it's very easy to stumble across know-it-alls. I definitely used to be one of them that is like, you should do this, you should do that. And if you're not doing this, then you're dumb, right? And I mean, I never really said those words, but that was like the vibe I was giving off. It's very easy to stumble across people like that, but then you look at their life, and you're like, well, you're not even walking the walk. So make sure that you find people that are walking the walk in your life so that you see someone that is radically doing it. And again, that is why I created the trust journey, so that you can see me doing it. You can see me make mistakes when I don't do it, and you can see others, and then you can have a community of people that are trying to walk that walk, because I promise you that's what's going to bring you the most happiness. Okay, next one. Visualize successful outcomes. I used to hate affirmation visualization. I don't know why. I just did. And what I've noticed is that the more that I bask in realities that make me sound delusional, the more that my brain believes it can happen. Why? Because that's just the way the brain is wired. When you are anxious and you think something is going to happen, the brain literally is sending out signals to your body that it's happening right now. Why do you think that you are able to get so deep into movies and shows, and like scary movies truly scare you? Because you're so in it and your brain really thinks, I'm in danger right now. Your heart is beating, everything is like, your adrenaline is pumping. When you visualize success, when you just sit down or even journal or go to Pinterest or make a vision board, your brain can feel, okay, this is going to happen, and it's going to make it feel like it is 100% a possible outcome. But you have to be delusional, and you have to use radical self-trust. I had a girl that joined a program recently, and when I asked her to envision her highest reality wasn't even that high. And I was like, go back and envision it. And she was like, I've never done this. I don't know how to envision my highest reality. A lot of people do that because in the past you've been shown that everything you wanted wasn't going to come true in the past. I'm not saying this is true. In the past, you've been shown that your brain wants to keep itself safe. And so it's like, let's not envision too much because we don't want to disappoint ourselves. No. Inside the trust journey, I want you to think big, because anything is possible for you. Set clear goals, right? Set clear goals on how you're going to determine if self-trust is working for you. It is going to work. But like I stated, make sure that you look at the wins, the successes every single day. Make sure that you're tapped in every single day. So maybe you'll set a goal where like, I'm going to do this without care for a whole week. I'm going to do everything that I feel my intuition, my God, whatever, nudging me to do. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and watch how much you're going to enjoy that week. And once you do a week, write down all the successes, write down all you felt, all you learned, all the mistakes, all the times that you felt a nudge, but you didn't do it. Write all that down. And when you set those kind of goals, like a week, a month, before you know it, a week is going to turn into a month, and a month into 3 months. And before you know it, you're living your life from radical self-trust. Practice a lot of self-compassion. Self-compassion is the antithesis, I'm sure I said it wrong anyway, for hate. Self-compassion will allow you to grow in ways that you cannot even imagine. A lot of people I know are mean to themselves to cause themselves to grow. The growth is very, very small. Maybe let's say, even if the growth appears big, like let's say that they made themselves grow into a millionaire through hate, the growth would have been vastly different. They would have been a billionaire through love. You will always grow through love. Be compassionate with yourself. Be kind with yourself. We grow through love. We shrink and isolate through hate and meanness, okay? Limit your options. Make sure that you narrow down 1 or 2 things that you really want to use to make decisions. So for example, maybe instead of having like this whole routine, because I see this a lot in myself and in a lot of people, where they like go out of control when it comes to how they're going to learn to do radical self-trust. I'm going to wake up early and I'm going to work out and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to pray to my God and I'm going to do this and don't do that. Practice 2 little things, maybe even 1. Maybe every time you go on a walk, you have conversations with yourself, and that helps with your radical self-trust. Maybe you journal at night. Maybe every night you just visualize that all the decisions and all the choices that you make are always right. Maybe you visualize that even through your mistakes, you learn things and you grow so much. Maybe it's sitting with someone that you trust, that they are modeling for you radical self-trust. And you just sit with them once a week. Limit how many rituals you're going to have around this, because like I stated, a lot of people tend to create and overcomplicate their rituals when that you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. When you see someone overcomplicate their morning routine, their nighttime routine, and when I say overcomplicate, that means that there's so many tasks that sometimes they can't keep up with it and then they drop it. There are people who have a lot of tasks and it works for them because, again, they're following their radical self-trust. When I mean overcomplicate, I mean you're finding a hard time keeping up with it. When you're finding that you're having a hard time keeping up with your morning routine or your rituals or your self-trust routine or your nighttime routine, it's too complicated and you're actually not in alignment. You're thinking you have to be a certain way. Literally ask yourself, what would help me tap into my intuition and my radical self-trust at its highest good? And whatever you hear, do that. Do that for a week. Do that for a month. Do that for 90 days. And then once it stops working, trust yourself. Okay, this doesn't work anymore. Time for something new. Again, every single thing is about radical self-trust. When you realize it's not working, it's not working. You don't have to keep at it. What used to work for me doesn't work for me anymore. I used to write down. As soon as I woke up, I would wake up, I would open up my phone, I would go to my notes app, and I would write everything that I was appreciative for. And I would do that for 20 minutes every single day. And it used to bring me so much joy. And then one day I woke up and it felt like a task. And then another day I woke up and it felt more like a task. And by the third day, I realized this is no longer serving me. Time for a new one. And so then I went to walks. And then eventually that's not going to serve me. Time for a new one. You never run out of rituals, but make sure you pick one or two. If you are someone that can handle 10, 20, and that's what your inner voice, that is what your intuition, that is what everything inside of you is saying, then by all means go do it. But if you're someone who tried that and you always fail at that, pick one or two. So I hope that this hacks and these tips or whatever you want to call them really help you tap into your inner trust and really help you see that only you know what's best for you. Only you can walk your path because it's your path. It's radically your path. No one can tell you what to do. Not a girl on the internet, not me, not your mom, no one. It's you. And like I stated, if you're religious, it's you and your God. It's you and your God. And if you're not religious, if you don't know if you want to believe in a bigger religion or not, just trust in you and trust that as a woman, you have been given a gift. You are able to bring life, or you have the possibility to bring life into this world. And that alone makes you so magical and gifted. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you either in a YouTube video or you'll hear from me in another podcast episode.